Coach, welcome aboard. Coming off an unbelievable game at Madison Square Garden. It's great to be visited by Rand Pecknold of the Quinnipiac Bobcats. How was the experience in front of 16,593 at Madison Square Garden, Rand?
It was great. It was big time NHL rank, right? The world's most famous arena. Kind of an interesting game. We went to overtime. We tied 3-3. My team, I feel like we played four different games, 3 periods and the overtime. We struggled in the first, great in the second, just okay in the third, and then great in the overtime. We're kind of up and down, but I ended up with a 3-3 tie against a team that I think Cornell is one of the top 5 teams in the country. We're still kind of young and finding our way. We got 14 new players, but once we figure out how to play 60, which is on me, I need to make that happen. I think we're going to be pretty good the second half of the year.
Every league, every game, every situation has a trend. Are you noticing any trends in college hockey right now where you say, I need to adjust to that?
That's a great question. Well, the one thing I noticed in college hockey is just I think there's a lot of parity this year, more than any other year that I can remember. It just seems like everybody's beating everybody. There's not, other than Denver, which kind of took off, and they've got a wagon. Obviously, Arizona State just swept them, but the trend. One of the interesting things is penalty kill. So, for the last, 10 years, everybody runs that triangle +1, right? Windshield wiper, push down. There's all different phrases for it. I call it triangle +1 with the wiper blade, right? You're coming down. So everybody was doing that, and not many people were running the shot lanes. And then now, and we always do shot lanes. And when I deal with NHL guys, NHL coaches, when they bring me in the summer and they're like, hey, let's do a coaching exchange, they always wonder what our penalty kill and our neutral zone. And a lot of them are like, you can't do that kill in the NHL. You can't run that. There's no way. And now everybody in the last 3 to 4 years is starting to go back to the shot lanes kill, So, so you're seeing that a little bit in college hockey. I think a lot of guys at our level, like rightly so, cheat and do what the pros do, do what the NHL does. So we're seeing that a little bit. So I'd say that trend is changing a little bit. Guys are going back to the shot lane kill, which is really what it was in the late 90s, right? It's just a cycle. We keep going in cycles here.
What about in-zone coverage? I don't want to get too technical, X's and O's, but a lot of teams in the NHL are having a hard time figuring out in-zone coverage schemes. Why has it changed so much?
I mean, you're well, and at the NCAA level, you're seeing a lot of modified swarms, right? So there's a few teams that run a full-out swarm, and it can be effective at times. But if you're a good team and you're well coached, you're going to beat that swarm, and you're going to be in trouble. And I think a lot of guys are now changing to like picking and choosing when you swarm. The NHL seems to be a little bit all over the map. Some people are running kind of modified swarms. You can't run a full swarm in the NHL, in my opinion, and most people don't, just because those guys are too skilled. Like, they'll find a way to make a play in a tight area. And then a lot of people are running that 5 of dice, which the Bruins made famous. I think that's a really hard system to run in college hockey. To run the 5 of dice, you need elite IQ centers, which the Bruins were so good at because they had Bergeron and Krejci. We don't have, we have really good players in college hockey. I don't know if we have that we don't have that level. But there are teams trying to run that 5 of dice. So you just got a lot of different things. And I think in the end, you just have to stick with what you're good at. You have to kind of, whether it's our level or the NHL, you gotta play to what your strengths are and what your personnel is, and figure out a way to be good at and be consistent with it. I think where teams get in trouble in the college is they change a lot. And they're changing every couple of weeks, and then your kids don't get consistent with, they're not getting the reps at what they're supposed to be doing.
Speaking of changing, you've seen a lot of change from when you came in at Quinnipiac to where you are now in terms of the recruiting process. Now with the major junior, how much does your recruiting process change?
Yeah, we need to adapt. When the transfer portal came in and the 5th-year rule came in for COVID, which ends this year, all the college guys, everybody's complaining. And I just sat my staff down and said, listen, we're not going to complain. It is what it is. It's here to stay. And we're going to find a way to game the system legally, but we're going to figure out how we can be good at it and win with it. And we won a national championship. And the same thing's happening now with the CHL. This is a great opportunity for all those players to go to college hockey. Obviously, we're producing a ton of guys for the NCAA, right? A lot of kids that are late bloomers, or a lot of guys like the Logan Cooley's and Luke Hughes of the world are also going the college route. So it's just an awesome opportunity for them to come into us, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. I think we're realistic. Most of these guys we're not going to get for 4. But we need to adapt as a staff, and we are in the CHL, all three leagues. And eventually we'll land a couple of those kids.
What's amazing is almost 35% of the players in the National Hockey League have played college hockey. I don't think people talk about that nearly enough. And you're one of the driving forces. You lost a whack of players last year. Whether it was Colin Graff or, you go down the line on the go on defense, you lost a whack of guys.
We did, yes.
How do you overcome that?
Yeah, we're struggling a little bit this year. Like we lost, I lost we had the fifth years, fourth years. A lot of my fourth years left too, because they had good or decent pro offers. They're like, coach, I'm not going to do better than this for another year. And I've got my degree, so I got it. That hurt us. And then we had the 4 underclassmen sign NHL contracts. That killed us. Like those would have been my 4 best players, and those would have been my 4 captains too. So, but it is what it is, and you have to adapt. And if you're going to be a top 10 program, you're going to lose players to the NHL. You have to understand that. You can't complain about it. You move on. Losing those guys is going to help us get more guys, whether it's from the CHL, USHL, or BCHL, or whatever league they're going to come from. Kids know that if you come to Quinnipiac, you're going to have a chance to sign an NHL contract, and we want to make sure they get their degrees. Like Graf and Quillen left after 3 years, and both those kids graduated on time, which is fantastic. Like, and I pushed them. I was like, hey, if you're going to leave, because they got off after their sophomore year and came back for their junior year. So we loaded them up both summers and made that happen. Not every NCAA team does that. We do that. Like, we want to make sure kids are graduating because there's going to be life after hockey. But it's, again, it's if you're going to be good, you're going to lose guys. I'm just looking at my roster right now. Like I'm waiting to see the NHL is going to come in and try and pluck a couple guys this year again. And that's okay. It's part of life. And I think all the top 10 programs have to deal with it. And we understand it's part of the process.
Coach, how involved are you when a player is going through the process of whether he leaves school or goes to the NHL? How involved were you in the process?
I'm definitely involved. You've got the agent, we have to call them advisors, the parents, there's other people pushing and pulling. A lot of it's the parents are driving it. And the kids kind of torn. We honestly, I know we lost 4 this year. We don't lose a lot of kids because kids love it here. They love Quinnipiac. They want to do their 4th year. We've had a lot of guys turn down offers and do their full years. So I would say I'm heavily involved, but I'm close to heavily involved. I don't know if they always listen to me. I don't. In the end, they're going to make their mind up what they want to do. I've had guys literally where I'm like, I think you should sign, and then they come back, and I'm like, great, I love it. And I've had other times I'm like, I don't think you're ready. I think you do need another year. It's not going. You're going to be better a year from now, and they don't listen to me. So I think in the end, the player and the agent and the parents mostly. Those are the driving forces of what the decision is going to be made. I certainly, I think I have a good relationship with our players. They are going to welcome my feedback, but there's no way they're not doing what I'm telling them to do right now, because I've certainly been wrong in the past with a few kids, whether to stay or to go, both situations.
One of the best lines I ever heard was from Lou Lamoriello to Brian Giunta when Brian got offered a whack of money to sign in Montreal. He says, Brian, as much as I like you, you got to take that offer, and I'm going to drive you to the airport right now. And so, it just shows you are involved, and I know you are involved, but I wanted you to get your words out there because you do coach a lot of high-profile players, and you are recruiting against the top schools in the country to get those players. And that's why I think it's important that you do have a voice in it, because you understand the player from before you got to Quinnipiac, during his time at Quinnipiac, and where you think he fits long-term. And do you ever think about that when you're going through the process?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to think about all those things, in the end, look, I'm not gonna lie. Like, kids come to Quinnipiac to play hockey, right? I'm not gonna show. They come here to play hockey. They come here to win. But we also, while they're here, they can get a great education. A lot of our guys graduate in 3 years, and if they do their 4th year, they get the MBA in 1. It's phenomenal. It's like, so you're doing 6 years of schooling in 4 years. We've had so many of our guys come through and do that. And that, you want to talk about setting yourself up for success in life after hockey's going to end, pro hockey, whatever level you get to. So, we try to drive them to be, good people off the ice. Certainly we recruit high character kids. A lot of people ask me about our culture, because that comes up a lot, especially during the national championship run and our Elite 8 runs. And, there's a lot of things we have to do to create that fantastic culture that we have. But probably the best thing is, recruit high character to elite character kids on the way in the door. And that makes life a lot easier.
When you're recruiting now, it must be a little bit more difficult because of the advent of major junior players becoming available. Are you concerned about where the USHL is right now? Are you concerned about the BCHL? Are you concerned about the Alberta Junior Hockey? Are you concerned about some of these leagues maybe not being as strong long term because of players leaving and going to play major junior?
I don't know if I'm concerned about it. There's so many unintended consequences that are going to come from this, from the CHL becoming eligible. The USHL is just a phenomenal league. They're gonna stay strong. They're gonna figure it out. They're gonna adapt. The BCHL I love. Like we've taken so many kids from there over the last 15 years. I think we're one in college hockey and taking kids out of that league. That league is fantastic. They teach offense and we get them, and now with them they're high end, high IQ kids, and then we teach them a little defense and they score and they make plays. And so I think those leagues are good enough, and they've got good people running them and good people running the teams in those leagues, that they'll adapt and they'll figure out ways to still be successful. So there is a kind of a flight of some USHL and BC, whatever, kids going to the CHL. But there's going to be kids going the other way too, and there's a lot of really good late bloomers in the world of hockey that, aren't superstars at 18, 19 years old. We've made a living off it. Now, the first guy jumps to my mind, Skylar Brindamore, was always a really good player, but he's a late bloomer. He was fine as a freshman for me, and he got better as a sophomore. And then his junior year, so he's probably 22, 23 as a junior. He went like this. And then he came back for his senior year, which we were fortunate. And he was an absolute beast, an absolute stud his senior year. I think he was 23 years old, and now he's in the American League playing hockey, and he's got a chance to play in the NHL. Like if he's at 21 turning pro, I don't know how that goes for him. So there's an avenue for a lot of really good 18 and 19-year-old freshmen, and there's an avenue for older freshmen depending on the programs. We tend to take kids all over the map. Like we've got a great 18-year-old this year, Elliot Brunwald. Excellent draft pick of the Bruins. We've got Pelosi's a third round of the Bruins. And we've also got some 21-year-old freshmen. So we're a little bit everywhere. We don't worry as much about the age. We worry about the IQ and the character situation.
Your journey was amazing. The first time I saw you play, you were playing at Lawrence Academy in the Cold Rink for Charlie Coyle. And then you went to Connecticut College. You played for Dave Roberts. Saw you play there too. What did you learn from both those guys that have helped you in your coaching journey?
Well, I'll tell you what, Lawrence Academy was a cold rink, right?
It was cold.
I remember I stole my mom's little gloves from her once. She's like, "What happened to my gloves?" Because I wear them under my hockey gloves. It was so cold. The biggest thing that I learned from Doug Roberts, he's just a great human being, and he treated us so well. And that's probably the number one thing I took from him is I loved going to the rink every day. I loved it. I loved my teammates. I loved practices. Maybe I didn't love them. We had to work and would do different things, but he just made it fun to be at the rink. And there was times we were all business, but he's just a great person and how he treated people. And I probably in my early years at Quinnipiac didn't really realize all that stuff. And I probably was too much of a hard ass in my early years. So some of my guys that played for me are going, yeah, I played for Rand then. He was way too mean. And I learned, but I matured and I adapted. And I think eventually I took some of what I learned from Coach Roberts, and, I'm a much better coach now than I was when I was young. And we I try to be as positive with our guys as we can. And we certainly hold them accountable, but that would be a big thing. And anything we do coaching wise, I never say negative clips. It's teaching clips. We try to, as much as we can, do them in one-on-one situations, so it's a positive learning environment. And you do have to hold your players accountable. You have to show them a blown back check. You have to show them, hey, you had your stick in the wrong spot, or you didn't rotate properly on the PK. But it's such a more positive learning experience when you do that one-on-one with them in your office. And they've probably already watched that clip 18 times before they came to meet with you. We give them access to all these clips, right? They have them on the lap. We have computers in our lounge for them to look at. We send them on their huddle accounts. So they already know. A lot of this is what's self-coaching. When you do it in the old way, which I did and everybody else does, some guys still do it, is you bring in 28 guys and they're sitting in that lounge and you're watching the blown back check and the kid's sweating and he's like, oh my God, I lost the game for my teammates, and it just kills his confidence. So I would say that's the biggest thing I think I took from Coach. We didn't do as much video back then as what we do now, but just and how much of a great person he was and how he treated people. And it took me a little while to get to that point, but I'm definitely at that point now.
How would you describe an ECAC hockey weekend, whether you're playing like you are this weekend, RPI and Union at home, or you go on the road to play at Class of 65 at Colgate and down the line at Cornell? Describe what an ECAC hockey weekend is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a grind. It's a great league. I don't have the exact number on what we have this year, but we usually have around 45 players in the NHL every year from our league. I think there was like 80 or 90 who were in NHL training camps. There might even be more guys that go up and down, get a couple games here or there. So the talent's, really high. And then the coaching's great. Guys do a great job. I mean, we just had to battle head to head with Schaefer, and we went into line a week ago. Before we had to play the Madison Square Garden, but 8 days ago we went in there. And we hadn't won there in a while. That was a big win for us. My guys played great, but they challenge us. Again, going on to Schaefer, like this is his last year. Like that guy's made me a better coach. We've had our battles over the years, but he's made me a better coach. I have to learn. I have to adapt. Rick Bennett was at Union for a long time, won a national champ. He made me a better coach. And then Rick left Union, went to pro, and now I'm really fortunate. Like we lost Mike Corbett this summer at Arizona State, and Rick wanted to get back in college, so I've got him on my staff. But Rick made me a better coach. Going back to Nate Lehman, when he was at Union, he made me a better coach. Those guys challenge you. I think guys challenge you, and then you got to adapt. You got to get better, and you got to learn. Or if you don't learn and don't adapt, you're going to get left behind.
Is there one underrated building? Like everybody talks about Lion, everybody talks about Houston Fieldhouse, they talk about your place. Is there one building in the league where you say, man, is it hard to play in there? Nobody talks about it.
Yeah, but I don't want to try to help. I don't want to try to help a team in my league recruiting wise. So
okay, then you don't have to.
Myself.
Coach, I'm gonna tell you where I think is probably the most difficult rink to play in that nobody talks about: Hobie Baker Arena.
Yeah.
The reason I'm going to say that is because of the size of the rink.
Yeah.
And guys aren't used to that.
It's hard and it's old, and the locker room situation, and Benny Sire was my old assistant, right? Benny was 12 years.
I know.
One of my best friends. But I mean, that's an old rink. You got the high glass. So the interesting about Hobie Baker rink too. So because of the high glass, there's no whistles. Most games are like 2.5, whatever. Like you can get in and out of there in like 155 in a game. So it's like, you can't play 3 lines in 4D. Like you got to play everybody because there's no whistles. And it's like, and the game ends. And so you have to adapt a little bit, as you do with anything. Like in our league right now, we just have the one TV timeout at the 10-minute mark. Whereas you go to the NCAA tournament, there's 3 TV timeouts. Like you have to change and adapt your coaching depending on how many TV time you have. But again, at Hobie Baker, it's a little different with the locker room situation and the old rink. And I love playing there, though. I think it's really cool. The fans are kind of hanging over you and stuff. And but it comes fast, and that rink is small. It's tiny, and you better have your head up, or you're gonna take some hits.
I see over your right shoulder a picture of the great Gordie Howe. When I was coaching the Hartford Whalers, I got to know Mr. Howe really well. Yeah, did you ever have the privilege of meeting him?
I did. So that's a picture of Gordie. That's my 2005 Pierre McGuire, who's playing in Johnstown. He's actually on a heater right now. He's got 6 goals in 6 games, so he's flying. He's gonna love when he hears this too. Right? But Tate was probably in that picture. He's probably 6 months old. So when our first ECAC game, so back in the day before we built our rink, we opened the rink in 07, but we joined the ECAC in 05. Our rink wasn't done yet, so we played our first ECAC home game at the Hartford Civic Center, right? The Whalers rink was against Harvard.
Did you use my office?
I don't know, maybe. And Gordie Howe came, he dropped the puck, and he was great. He actually was there when we announced we were going to the ECAC, and we announced going to Division I. He had a relationship with Quinnipiac. I don't really know why, but I probably got to meet him 7 or 8 times. But it was really cool. In that game, I remember a quick story. Harvard was 7th in the nation, and we were coming from Atlantic hockey. And, this was a big deal for us. And we were going to have 7,000 or 8,000 fans. Like we were playing at Northford, which was like 700 fans. So this was big. I remember talking to Jack McDonald, my AD, who was a great, great athletic director. And I'm like, Jack, I'm really nervous. Everybody's coming. Like we could get blown out. Like this is, he's like, you'll be fine. Don't worry. He's listen, you don't have to win the game. Just don't get blown out. Just keep the score close. He told me. And we go in and we won the hockey game. I don't remember. I think we won like 6-3. Mike Bordieri was on fire. Rocky Hill, Connecticut kid. He had a great game. And we win 6-3. And the next night, we played Dartmouth at Northford, who was like 19th in the country, and we beat them. So we opened the season 2-0 in the league, and we were off and running. We were better than I thought we were, I guess.
You don't have to answer this. You don't want to. I personally think you're an NHL caliber coach. You have visions of going down that road.
Well, thank you for that. That's a very nice compliment. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I've had conversations. I would say I don't think anything's progressed that far. I think right now in the NHL, it's for those GMs, it's really hard for them to hire a college guy. When they've done it, I mean, Jim Montgomery's, he's one of the better. I think he's one of the better coaches in the NHL right now. I know that. I mean, he gets fired from Boston, and he's got multiple offers within like 3 days, and he's at the Blues. I don't know why there's not more of a conduit between the two things. I mean, I guess I know a little bit. They tend to rehire a lot of guys. But you look at Edmonton last year, they gave a chance to the guy from the
Knobloch. Chris
Yeah. I don't know him. I know, but he did a great job. So yeah, I mean, listen, I have interest, but I think a lot of times they're just kind of recycling, and they would admit it too. They know they're doing that. They're trying to get a guy who's a veteran who's got experience.
Do you study much of the National Hockey League and some of the tactics and tendencies that they have going on in their games?
I do. Yeah, I do. I've been really fortunate since we've had our success in the last. Well, we've been really good for about 13 years, but probably in the last 8 years. Actually, Jeff Blashill was with the Red Wings. He's the one that started it for me. First he hired me to coach Worlds, which no college guys weren't doing that. That was a huge experience.
I was in Germany. Was that in Germany?
I was in Cologne, Germany. Yeah. And, so now I'm coaching, Eichel and Larkin and Anders Lee. And so that was a great experience for me. And then he had brought me in to do some coaching exchanges. I've done a couple with him, and that opened the door for me to do it with other teams. So that's been awesome for me. And a lot of times I'll go in, and there's different situations. Sometimes they'll just tell me, hey, I want you to just cover this. Or sometimes some of the more forward-thinking coaches who are very confident too are like, hey, take what we did in our last 20 games with this zone or this and break it down. Tell me what we did wrong. Tell me what we did right, and don't hold back. That's awesome. I love that. And you got, that's great for me too. My wife's ready to kill me when I do that, because she's like, can you slow down? What are you doing right now? Like she almost got on the phone and called Blash once because I did that for him. But it's great. It's a great resource. It's really a good way to do it. I know Belichick did that for years with the Patriots. He would bring college guys in and be like, hey, break down my defense. How would you beat it? And stuff like that. And I'll ask them, like, they'll say, well, what do you want to learn from me? And we go back and forth. And so that's been like phenomenal for me. I try to do 1 or 2 of those a summer. And obviously I keep everything confidential I don't share with the other teams, but that's been a huge resource for me to grow and learn as a coach. And whether it's terminology or different things. I always go back to Barry Smith, right? There's 2 Barry Smiths. There's the Red Wings Barry Smith, and there's the Canucks Barry Smith. The Red Wings one was great. He came into Quinnipiac one year, this is years ago, and really helped us with our neutral zone and just some language. And every time I see him, I want to hug him, because I really feel like, even though I don't talk to him every day, like even it was a short spurt, he was a great mentor for me. I learned from him and really stole from him, and he helped me a lot.
That Barry Smith used to be my roommate in Pittsburgh, so I know him really well.
There you go. Yeah, I love him.
We won a couple Stanley Cups together. So in Pittsburgh, they'd say he's the Pittsburgh Barry Smith, not the Detroit.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. But it's funny that you bring that up, Coach, because that's how I got my NHL job in Pittsburgh. Scotty Bowman was working for Hockey Night in Canada, and he would drive through Canton, New York when I was coaching at St. Lawrence. And he'd come and watch practice, and then he'd pick my brain about different scenes we were doing on the ice, whether it was neutral zone, power play, penalty kill. And we didn't have the advanced technology you guys have now with computers, but we used to make reel-to-reel tapes, with 2 VCRs. And that's how I got my job.
Yeah, and that's an awesome story. And that's, Pierre, that's how life works. It's connections.
Yeah.
You got to feel comfortable with, Jeff Blashill, when he jumped from college to the Red Wings with Babcock, he basically just bumped into Babcock in a rink once, and they just chatted. And I think there was a little more to the story than just that, but they started talking hockey, and then Babs liked him, brought him in, and next thing you know, he's going to the Red Wings, and now he's the head coach. Now he's with Tampa, and it's all about connections and people feeling comfortable with being. It's how life works.
You're 500 right now as a team. I know your expectation is much higher for you and your group. How do you deal with that as a coach going forward? I know, because we're going into the holiday seasons, exam seasons coming up. How do you deal with all this pressure, not just on the ice, but from around the outside part of the ice?
Yeah, I think with us, we just need to stay the course. Like we're a young team. We've got a lot of new players, a lot of freshmen, a lot of transfers. So we're trying to this is our identity. This is our culture. This is how we play. And it's a great group of guys, like really high character group. And we just have to mature as a team. And I have to stay positive as much as I can. I get frustrated at times, and I have to be hard on these guys at times too, to get them to play hard. But we just have to stay the course, and it will come. And I've had years like this before where, I remember one year we were in like 7th place in the league, and then we were struggling with a young group. And then, I'm like, what's going on? I think we were under 500 at Christmas. And then we went 15-2 in like 17 games, and all of a sudden we're in 2nd place, And so I think we're poised to go on a run like that. Even 2013, like we started the year, and I know it wasn't a big sample size, but we started like 3-3-1. We lost on a Tuesday night to like the worst team in Atlantic hockey. And I was like, oh my, how did we lose to them? It was just an atrocious loss. And then we didn't lose for 3 months, and we're number 1 team in the country. So things can turn around fast within our program and our culture. So I think as a staff, we just got to stay the course, keep teaching, keep coaching these guys up, getting them buy-in, and it will happen. And we will go on a heater at some point. I'm hoping it starts Friday night. That's my hope. I thought it would have started already, but we have played a really difficult schedule. We've played some really good teams, and we lost 2-1 and 6-5 in overtime to Maine, who's I think 3rd in the country. And we didn't play great either night. And Maine's Benny Barr's done a great job there. We easily could have won one or both of those games. So I think if we play them in January, we probably split that series. But it is what it is. But we just got to stay the course here.
World Junior is an amazing event, and we're getting close to World Junior time. You were the head coach of a bronze medal winning team. Amazing win over Sweden. I remember watching it clear as day. What did you take out of that tournament that made you a better coach and maybe a better hockey person?
Yeah, that was like a hockey think tank, like pressure cooker, because you're surrounded by all these great coaches from other leagues and other programs. You've got I remember one day I'm in there like trying to get practice, putting the lines up for practice, and Billy Guerin walks through the door, because he's USA Hockey, and so you're bumping into guys and just talking hockey. So it was awesome, just an awesome experience for me. Working for John Van Beesbroek was amazing. Like, he was so good. I was so impressed. I knew him a little bit, but I was so impressed with him. I learned a lot from him. I had a great staff that I learned a lot. I had Cashman, who played for me, Pat Furschweiler, Forsey, Nick Four. We just had Jerry Wayman was our goalie coaches with the Lightning now. So we had a great little pressure cooker. And, over the years, I've become friends now. I see the Slovakian coach all the time, who reminds me that he beat me in that tournament. It's like, it was our first game, and a big upset. We did finish first in our bracket. We got it going after that, but I saw him in Pittsburgh at the USHL showcase, and I hung out with him. He came randomly, stopped by my rink this summer, and we did a little exchange for a little bit, because he's we've got a Slovakian now, and we're hoping to get a pipeline going there. But it's just an awesome experience, and I'm so appreciative of USA. Anytime I get to USA Hockey events at that level, it's just such a treat.
Was there one player that you remember? I forget Connor Bedard, but is there one player that stood out? You say, man, this guy is going to be something else. I have one, but I'm going to see if you think it's the same guy.
Well, yeah, Bedard was ridiculous that tournament. The kid, not on my team, right? On one of the other teams.
Oh, on one of the other teams.
On one of the other teams. The kid that I loved in that tournament that I thought was really dominant was the Sandin Pellikka.
The Detroit. Yep.
Yeah, I really like his IQ, and he just kind of controlled the play. But there was a lot of kids that just kind of stepped up. I mean, that's big time hockey. And I'll tell you what, big time pressure. You really see the kids that thrive in the pressure environments. That's why the NHL's there they know who the talent is. Now they want to see who, because I did world under 18s too. In Russia with Seth Appert. That was the 2018. And that's a pressure cooker too. And you see kids rise up, and you see kids struggle a little bit with the pressure. So that's a big part of who you're going to draft also.
My guy was Dylan Guenther.
Yes, he was great. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They said, this guy's going to be such a power forward in the NHL. See, I did 9. I broadcast 9 World Games, but I've been going to the event since 1989. And the thing that stands out to me is if you can dominate a World Junior, Rand, I believe this, you can go play in the NHL as a star player.
Yes, I agree.
And I'm so happy to hear you talk about Sandin Pellikka, because what allows him as an undersized D to survive, and he's going to be a real good pro, is exactly what you just said. So not everybody understands that scouting is a kind of a different thing, right? And you just proved that. And I think that's awesome. I think that's one of your real strengths, team building. And I think people need to know that about you. You're just not that guy that's going to get in the kid's face and push him to be better. You're the guy that actually understands what the kid does and how he needs to work to get better. Not a lot of coaches can do that.
Yeah, we try to, Billy Riga, who's now the head coach at Holy Cross, Billy and I years ago, we took like an 11-year sample size. We did this whole project and we analyzed every single kid we brought in for 11 years. And it was like, why do they fail? Why do they succeed? Why did we hit the nail on the head? Like Matthew Pekka came in, he was going to be one of the best freshmen in the country. That's what he was. He was great. He's played NHL games and phenomenal kid. And so he did what we thought he was going to do, but we were more like, why do they overachieve? Why do they underachieve? And then over and over, it just came down to two simple things: is high character or elite character and hockey IQ. Like, we need kids with hockey IQs. If you got low hockey IQ, you're going to have a tough time at Quinnipiac. Like, we have structure. We run systems. We run a lot of face-off plays. We let our kids play. We don't overcoach them. They have to play within that structure. So kids that struggle to understand structure or understand rotations and different things that we do are going to struggle for us. And so when we recruit, when Rick Bennett or Joe Dume comes to me now and said, hey, I think we want to offer this kid, he's perfect for us. The first time I'm like, is he a great kid? And what's his hockey IQ? I always ask that. And then the other thing we look at a little bit is like, we'll say like, okay, what does he do well? And what does he do poorly? And because everybody has weaknesses. And then can we fix that? So if you're like, hey, he's got low hockey IQ, that's his weakness. Well, that you can't fix that at 21 years old. Like, hockey IQ is, to me, it's pretty much done. I don't know what the exact age is, but 18, 19 years old, hockey IQ is kind of locked in. You're not fixing that. So we have to be really cautious about that. And listen, there's a lot of programs out there that are they want thoroughbreds. They don't care if the kid thinks, they just throw pucks on the edge. Just go get them. Just give me athletes. Jim Calhoun at UConn was like that. He just wants kids that rebound and run. Like, I learned a lot from the basketball world, and that worked for him. That's not going to work at Quinnipiac. So we have to understand what we're good at and why we win and why we won a national championship, and stay the course with how we team build.
Everybody talks about the 3 M's: Minnesota, Michigan, Massachusetts, but I think you got to add a C in there: Connecticut. I've been going to hockey in Connecticut since I watched John Gardner coach Brian Leach at Avon Old Farms.
Yeah,
I'm dating myself, coach. That's why I got no hair on my head. But I would just say this: you've been, along with the other coaches at Yale and at UConn and now at Sacred Heart, a driving force to make hockey better in Connecticut. Do you see yourself as being part of that? Because I think Connecticut hockey belongs with the 3 M's.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to. I mean, I did coach my helped coach my 05 team for Mid Fairfield. So that was interesting. We had Marty St. Louis gets traded to the Rangers, and then he retires. Next thing I know, he's coaching my kid, and I'm like, hey Marty, can I keep helping out? I'll work the door on the bench on Sundays. So I just came in and I jumped in now and again. I did. It's a great story, side story. When he got inducted in the Hall of Fame, the other coach is Adam Delgado, and he's like, hey, Rand, I really want Adam to be there because Marty and Adam were coaching 03s, 05s, 08s, his 3 boys together. I'd really like Adam to be with. Can you coach the team this way? Yeah, I can jump in. And we randomly had a bye weekend, so I jumped in, and I don't know how the kids were 8 or 9 or 10 at the time. I don't remember how old they were. And now I'm doing the 2013. I have a 2013 also Mid Fairfield. Chris Gerwig's the coach there. So I feel like I'm helping, and I do have, I run a couple camps this summer, not a ton, but I feel like we're helping and trying to push the product, and we are churning out some really good players. And, I don't think we have the numbers of players playing like Massachusetts and Minnesota and Michigan, but I think we are churning out, some pretty good ones, including your son that came through, who's at Northeastern right now.
Yeah. Well, Mid Fairfield was great. When we moved from Canada to Connecticut, I could tell you right now, we felt so blessed to have him be part of a program in Mid Fairfield. And, the fact that you coached there, and you brought up the Marty St. Louis story, I didn't even want to go there, but you look at the way that the players that have come out of that program, whether it's Jonathan Quick or Cam Atkinson or Max Pacioretty or Scotty Moore. I mean, them all. I don't have to tell you. But it's amazing how much you give back. And I think, I've talked to Mike Cavanaugh about this at UConn. Talked to, so many different coaches. I think Connecticut's a sleeping giant for hockey. And I think Quinnipiac's a big part of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I agree. Like, and again, Mid Fairfield's the prize. Like, kids are coming from all over the place. We're top 5 in like every age group. And the coaching is great. They really do a good job, top to bottom. The 2012 team, we practiced with the 12s, and I don't even know what they are, like 51 and 0. They haven't lost. They don't lose to anybody. They're unbelievable. They look like a 2006 team. So But Danielle Ward actually coaches that team, does a great job. So we sometimes practice them a little bit. But I think Mid-Fairfield, yeah, again, you mentioned a bunch, like that 01 group had Zegras and Spencer Knight, Cooper Moore's with me. The O2s, we've got Victor Chineknier. They do well all the way. I think I have 6 Mid-Fairfield kids on my team right now, or 5. I've got
Shabone's one of them. He was on that.
Yeah, it's Annan, man, he's a goal scorer. Yeah, so we've done it with Mid-Fairfield kids at Quinnipiac. I think Quinnipiac and Boston College have the most Mid-Fairfield kids, but it's been a great little funnel for us.
You have been a wealth of information. It's so great to see how your career has progressed. It's like throws my butt off at Lawrence Academy watching you play.
Yeah, cold.
Oh my gosh, was it cool. Thank you so much, Rand, for being part of ECAC Hockey Decision Makers. You've been outstanding. Really good luck the rest of the way, except for when you play Northeastern.
Yeah, we do have that game in January. So are you going to be at that game?
I'm coming to see you before the game. Thank you for the coffee the last time.
Are we going to grab a coffee before that one too?
Yeah, but I think we might have to go to another place after the game.
Okay. All right, we'll plan that off the air.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks.